Hello, hello. Test, test. How do I sound?
Just speak from where you're going to be comfortable. You can move
Right
that
here.
arm anyway.
I'll probably be right here.
Perfect.
Maybe push this up a little bit.
Good thing.
How about right there? That's probably where I'll be.
That's perfect. And I'll adjust the first minute when I pay attention after I kick this crazy first question over to you.
Oh, God.
No, I'm not. You've just been very good tonight.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I would just plead the fifth.
I don't know. Thank you for being here.
You'll have to speak to my attorney.
I feel like you're all my clients in this room, so I don't know. I can't really say anything.
Big
so.
conflict
you're in
of
a tough
interest.
spot.
Yeah, I'm completely
Hey,
conflicted.
did you turn my headphones down?
Did I? I don't know.
Testing. Good, thank you.
Cool. Yeah.
I was going to say, man,
I'm in.
can't hear shit.
Looking out for you.
He's looking out, all right.
Looking out for the eardrums.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for doing this. Like,
course.
as most shows, I don't give a lot of information ahead of time. I give them a general idea what we're going to do. It evolves as we go along. When I thought about talking about the following subject, it was kind of immediate. I went to Mr. Cozza first and floated the idea. I said, I need two other people here that would not only contribute, but the whole essence of the conversation. It would make sense that they were here. And it literally was like 5 seconds before I could say Hancher. He was like, I think maybe Lynn and Mr. Hancher might be. I said, yeah, we're on the same page.
See?
Nice.
So, thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honored to be here. Honored
And I've
to
had
be back.
I've had the honor of having all three of you on individually on this show. So I think for those listening and watching, each of their individual stories, and certainly Mr. Cozza here, the stories are out there. So I won't ask you to go too deep into the dive because I don't want you to be too repetitive. But I do want to talk about entrepreneurship, but not in the way that most people do every podcast, right? I really want to drill down into things that you learned or were made aware of during the early processes. It can be something positive, it could be negative, it's something that surprised you, something that you learned about humans outside of even the business world, something that entrepreneurship opened your eyes to that affected maybe your entire life, not just your business life. Like a case in point, I'll start this off. So one of the things about dealing with other people that I learned right away through the guitar journey for me was that my perception of the way things were, what I see, felt, heard, and assumed was absolutely, and many times, completely wrong. And the person I was trying to get to buy in and have confidence in me and buy my product was seeing things in a completely different way. And not often in relation to my product, but the way they viewed life. And oftentimes that just went right over my head. And it wasn't until later along the way when times got lean and I had to start really attacking my own presentation. Like, what am I missing here? I'm missing the importance or the lack thereof of my product in that person's life. And that began to serve me outside of the business world. But it took a level of maturity that I did not have initially to say, hey, you have your own little reality, McKenna, but your clients have all unique realities, and you're not obviously touching them in the way they need to feel to get them to act in a very tough market. And it was an eye-opener for me. So I figured, that was just one of the many lessons that I learned along. Of course, not having great legal advice. That's another whole long story, which we don't want to.
But that day has passed.
Right.
That day has passed.
Yeah.
I was probably still in high school when you were having those problems.
Yeah. So you really couldn't have helped me, but
Maybe more than the help you were getting.
Also true.
or else it was at a party somewhere, and really definitely wouldn't have been of any help to
Also
me.
true.
Yeah.
Also true.
I think that's a really good one, talking about the value proposition and what your consumers want. As you were even asking the question, I was thinking about not even my current company, but I've had other smaller ventures, restaurants, donut shops, whatever it might be. And one of the things that I learned, and it's advice that I give to people quite a bit when they're passionate about starting a company, they're passionate about the product, the service, whatever it might be, is this mantra of your friends are not coming to save you. And I was crushed at the fact that when I opened this restaurant or this donut shop, that there wasn't a line out the door of all the people that were saying, go for it, man. You know, this is going to be great. And I'm like, well, where's everybody at, right? Now, that's not to say like there wasn't people that didn't want to see me win and they didn't support me, but it wasn't even close to what I thought it should be based off of all the things I heard. You know, hey, do you think I should do this? Yeah, man, it's going to be great. I love that kind of food. We'll be there every day. They won't. And it's not because they want to see you fail. It's that it's not that important to them. You know, when we put all of our investment, time, sweat equity into something, I feel like sometimes entrepreneurs have this expectation that their network is going to come be the reason that they're successful.
Is it a delusion?
It is a total delusion.
It's delusion.
Like, be passionate about what you're doing, build your brand, and build your customer base and know who your ideal client is. Because it's not that your friends don't want to help you. The reality is they're not your ideal client. And that was kind of this emotional entrepreneurial curve that I had to get over. But it hit the gut a little bit at first, because it's like, as a small business, I mean, you're going week to week at times, and you're like, man, if somebody would just come in and buy a few more donuts, like we get this thing figured out, but you don't want to come off desperate. So I think that would be one to think about is, you know, if you're thinking about starting something, don't base a business model around your network and the friends that you think are going to come support it.
No, and I would say don't base it on money either. That was the biggest turning point for me when I left corporate America and started the firm. Like, I knew, like, I just jumped without a parachute. I knew I had to make X every month to support my family and to maintain the lifestyle. And I always was coming in like short a little bit, maybe right there, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then the coach I worked with at the time, still work with today, he said, just stop thinking about the money. Focus on being the best lawyer you can be. And I just focused on, okay, what does that mean? And to me, I learned being a good lawyer was not about knowing the law. It was knowing about the client and how to solve their problem. And that's what I just focus on. I focus on understanding people at a deeper level, the people I was dealing with, and then understanding what was their problem, not from my perspective, but from their perspective, and how do I solve it? And then once I started doing that, like, everything changed. Like, revenue went up. It became very easy. And that was something that I saw, luckily, very early on, but it's completely changed the way I practice law to this day. It's just really focusing on not the results or the money, the process of being the best, but understanding what that means. Like, it's not about knowing the law to a deep level, which I do, knowing people at a deeper level and understanding the problems they have and how to solve their problem, not the problem I think they have. That helped me the most.
That's good.
It's interesting because I would think it's not an exciting journey every day. So
It's not?
I don't know how
Wait
many
a
of you have
minute.
kids, but if you've
Yes.
ever read that same story to your kids, literally every night
Yeah. Yes.
for what
Or
seems like a
grandkids.
decade, and you think, is there any other book we could read? I mean, I have told the insurance story hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. I check out sometimes while I'm telling the story. So there's this monotony that I think, and I heard it kind of, follow your passion is the whole big, that's the mantra of today. The minute you follow your passion, you turn it into your business, it's now your work.
Yeah. Yep.
It's no longer your passion. So you're doing the exact same thing. You're getting better every day. Maybe you're learning a little more every day. But it is so monotonous to become successful. Most people just quit for boredom.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, that's a great, literally, you just kind of like eased my transition for me. Thank you, Lynn. Let's talk about that, because there is this thing that and I'll preface it by saying this story. I think both of you know it, and I'll be very quick about it. I met an elderly couple in 97 on vacation. I was going through a rough time with my personal life, and I was recommended to marry your passion. Marry your passion with your vocation. That's the closest you'll come to bliss. That's what I was sold. And don't get me wrong, it served me okay. That drove me to take action. But in the end, I always reflect back on that. Like, are we telling often younger folks to follow that passion at any cost? And I'm not always certain in every instance that's the best advice, right?
I agree.
No, I don't think so.
I don't. I mean, this, many of us have the opportunity at this table to work with aspiring entrepreneurs and startups and so forth. And, when people come to me and ask me like, hey, I have this idea, do you think I should start a business? We always go through this series of questions of, why do you think you should start a business? Why is it important to you? Just because you got the blue ribbon at the county fair for the apple pie the last 5 years doesn't mean you should start an apple pie company.
It doesn't.
And I do think that's, back to Lynn's point, the monotony, like it's fun winning the blue ribbon and taking your pie to the family reunion and everybody's just talking about it. But then it becomes a business, and you could actually lose your love for what you were doing. Mm-hmm. Now, there are plenty of stories as well, and I think mine is one of them where I'm so passionate about serving people and giving something back that it helps me through the monotony, because the results fuel me. When I can help somebody get to the next step or help a leader get a breakthrough, it definitely fuels me. So I think passion is a part of it. But you can't just say, wow, I just really love making pie, so I'm going to build an empire doing that, because that honeymoon is coming to an end. And so you got to find something a little bit deeper than the product and service that's going to carry you through that.
Yeah. I mean, I always say you have to fall in love and be passionate about what you do. Like if you follow your passion, that may or may not work. But if you truly fall in love and become passionate about what you do,
about the process,
well, that's exactly right, because that's what I love. Like, do I love the law? Sure,
I know you do. Yeah.
But am I passionate about the law? No. Like I don't sit there and read textbooks like a crazy person every day. But I love the process. I fell in love with the process of solving problems, the process of building things, the process of helping people build stuff, and that, to your point, like that's the passion that fuels me, right? I didn't go into practicing law saying I have this passion for problem solving. I just discovered that passion by being just very engaged in what I do. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs get so caught up and they think they have to follow their passion, or they have this dream that they see on social media. They want to be that way. Mm-hmm. They don't really, they're missing the day-to-day. And I think if you become really engaged in the day-to-day and become really passionate about those day-to-day, the blocking and tackling, then it makes the journey so much better.
And that's not for everybody.
No, because it sucks. There's some days where it's monotonous. You're just like, this is stupid.
And
why am I doing this?
And that's where I think we miss out, is that there's only a certain segment of our population that's wired in a way that actually can fall in love with the process of pursuing what they're passionate about. It's that love of the process and the patience required to grow within that process.
Mm-hmm. It's the uncomfortability of every day. And I think, Rocco, you've said this before, but there is something to, when you become great at something, you end up loving it. Mm-hmm. It's not the flip.
I totally believe that. Yes.
No 5-year-old girl says, hey, I want to be an insurance agent when I grow up. I mean, maybe they do.
They don't?
I'm guessing. But you become really good at it.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Then
really good point.
You begin to love it.
Yeah.
But again, to your point, there's so much in the process that it has to become purpose.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So even though I'm saying a similar story or the same story over and over and over again, when I see that couple come in, and I call it the shoulder test, their shoulders are up here, they have no idea what they're facing. And when their shoulders are relaxed, I see a physical response to what I do every single day.
That's awesome.
That's purpose.
That is purpose. Yeah.
And to your point, like you're so right. Like you don't know what you're going to be great at, right? You just, when you get engaged in the process, and then you find that great, because I think everybody's meant to be great at something. Most people don't discover it because it's really hard. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of days where you think you suck. I mean, 7 out of 10 days, I think I'm the worst lawyer in the world. I mean, literally, there's days where I question myself every single day. And there's those 3 days that I'm like, I killed it today. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes those 7 days worth it. Mm-hmm. But it's like you're constantly, if you're an entrepreneur, you're truly engaged in the process and falling in love with it, it's so hard. It's so uncomfortable. Like there's gonna be days where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I had one of those days, I left the office, I'm like, this is the worst. Like, I'm just gonna go cut grass for a living. I'm like, this is dumb. Like, I'm done. But it's like you have those moments because
instant gratification.
Right.
I want to cut some.
Exactly.
I want to cut some
That's
grass.
That's what I say. I'm like, because I get that's always a joke I tell myself. Because I'm like, because I'd say this when I was in corporate America. I used to always sit in my office, and there was the landscapers outside my office at the window, and I'm like, like they don't have to worry about anything when they're done for the day. They have a finished result. It's a finite end to the day. They go home and do it again. And I'm like, I've never had that in my career. I've never had a day where I can just go home and switch it off and get back. My brain never stops until I go to bed. Then
You would hate it.
I would.
You would hate it.
I would, but there are those moments where I'm just like,
So
I just want to do that.
I mean, that's the conversation about wiring, right?
Yeah, right.
Because I mean, my wife's been on the journey from day one, and I have those same conversations with her. You know, you come home from the office or a rough day building your company, and you're like, you know what? Let's just liquidate everything, buy some beachfront property, be done with it. I just want to sit on the beach and not talk to another human, right? And she always reminds me, we wouldn't be there 2 days, and you would start some seashell jewelry. You know, you'd be the president of the HOA.
Is there a market for that?
Like, you're going to be in a sandcastle competition. Like, so the wiring, like, although it's nice to think, like, man, you look good on that zero turn, brother. Like, there's just no way.
Tan and shirtless.
Yeah, like,
Trust me.
this is great. But to Lynn's point, like, you'd be miserable.
I know. I know. Like,
It sounds nice.
It does. I started watching those van life videos where people like turn vans into like homes. And I told Laura,
Yeah, me too. Which one are you
I'm
watching?
like, I want to just buy one of these. I said we should just buy one of these vans. Just like take a summer. She's like, you wouldn't last to getting to like Mercer County. She's like, you would want to come home. Like you would go crazy. I'm like, I don't think I would. But I'm like, yeah, I would.
Yeah,
you're right. And that's the thing with entrepreneurship, right? It comes down to wiring. It doesn't say one's better than the other.
No,
it's
not
just
at all.
Entrepreneurs are wired differently.
I agree.
Yes.
We truly are. Like our brains are different. There's just something, we see the world differently.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Can I comment on these two gentlemen? Because I know them both.
You
very well.
just need to interject yourself anytime you want here, love.
So it is different, and I always say this: I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for people that are not entrepreneurs. Because I could not do what I do if I didn't have people doing my books and my commissions and my contracting, all that kind of stuff. I don't do any of that. But both of these men, what ends up happening is you start as an entrepreneur. Then you're a small business owner. Then you're responsible for other people. Then you're giving back in your community. That is who you are. That's actually a unique way of being. And that's both of you. And I'm very well aware of it, that you don't just ever do anything for yourselves. It's always with the intent to impact others, either giving them a career opportunity, creating growth in their businesses, you give back to your communities. It's a whole different mindset, and I don't know where that comes from. I just know that it's in you. And I don't know that it can be taught.
well,
Yeah.
Thank you.
on that
appreciate that,
thought,
really.
yeah, I would agree with those words 100%, especially with these two. Multiple times on this, Rocco will laugh at this. I'm sorry. I'm letting you know ahead of time.
Okay.
I quote Jim Rohn so many times on this podcast for the last 3 years, but it was the guy who pulled me out of the rut all of my life, was this one guy. But giving starts the receiving process. That's it. That's it at its most elemental form. But I think that it's hard to teach somebody that. You kind of have to kind of fall into it, and then you're like, oh, look at that. I feel amazing. And all these people are really appreciative. And look how it goes, right? I think that that's part of entrepreneurship, or at least that's generally part of successful entrepreneurship. If you drill down, they're really into helping other people and getting satisfaction from that. I mean, the money will always follow along. Zig Ziglar, right? The money will follow along. Just do good business and be nice to people.
Yes.
Really.
Simple as that.
And
Yes.
the money will follow, but don't make the money what's in front of the horse, right? The horse will drag the money along as you move, right? And again, I want to believe that people are teachable. I believe that. But there are certain parts of entrepreneurship, I think, that have to be experienced. You really can't, book teach that, right?
No.
I don't know. Maybe
No.
you can.
By observation, I think most things in life are learned through observation. I mean, especially like take parenting, for instance. Like I think you can tell your kids all you want, but they're going to do what you do. Like they're like I learned that with, and I told the story before with Gabe. Like I learned that with Gabe. Like I remember telling him certain things, but who he became is because of who I am. And like when he wrote that speech when he was in college about me, which it was just his viewpoint of me. And that's when it hit me. It's like I never told him any of this stuff. He just observes the world this way by watching me. And I think that's the same with entrepreneurs, right? If you surround yourself with people, there are certain things you can't teach somebody how to be charitable. No. I think they either are, they aren't, or they're around people that are and see what it does to them. Because I grew up, low middle class, like small town. Didn't know what charity was, like didn't know what any of that meant. And I just, when I got out of there, I'm like, okay, like I want to give back and help people. Like what's the point of doing what I do if I can't help others? And it's just, then you feel good about it and you like doing, you like seeing the results. So then people come around and they start seeing it, but it's the feeling you get from it.
That's exactly right. And you can tell people that till they're blue in the face, but until they feel that,
you got to feel it. Yeah, you do.
That's the magic.
It really is. And just helping one person, like just being able to help one person and know that you've made an impact. Like I remember I gave a speech when I was in California a couple of years ago. And it was like this goal-setting entrepreneur like seminar. And it was like a 60-minute talk on just risk-taking. And I got a card in the mail like a week later from this woman who was there. And I didn't even speak to her at the event. But this well-written card of like how that talk helped her because she was teetering on doing something. And that, what I said, gave her the confidence to do it. And she was just thanking me for it. And I'm like, okay, like, didn't think I was going to get anything from that. And that, just helping that one person, like, made it all worth it for me. Like, paid my own way out there, went and spoke, didn't get paid for any of it. Like, spent 3 days out in California. But it to me, it was worth it because one person was impacted by it. And that, to me, is being charitable. It's just being able to help just one person and the feeling you get from it.
I agree.
You have to feel a lot of that. I mean, in the work that you do.
It's unbelievable. And, we thinking about like giving and being charitable, I have these conversations with myself all the time because giving is relative, to what you're able to do. Mm-hmm. And I always set goals to give and feel it leaving. Mm-hmm. Like I want to feel it leaving. And I truly do believe in the law of reaping and sowing, and I don't believe that there's any seed that you can bury that won't grow good fruit. And if you fertilize it, but I mean, look, no seed, no fruit. And I truly believe that. I'm very calculated and careful about what that means. But one of the things that I think we as entrepreneurs, as people chasing success, feel even more than monetary giving is our time. And so I try to be vigilant with that as well, but it is part of the fuel factor for me as well. Both Rocco and Lynn mentioned it as far as this why, what's your fuel, what's keeping you going, especially if you reach any level of success. And I'm far from, where I hope to be and where I want to be and the impact that I want to make. But I come from this standpoint of positive discontent because it's like, How can I ever say, all right, we've arrived? Man, we did it. I don't care how good you get at something. When it's attached to something meaningful to you, then it's not about you anymore. And you wake up and you realize there's people counting on me to win. There's people counting on me to serve. There's people counting on me to make them a better leader or help their business function. And there's people even counting on the people I'm serving to win. And so, yes, I'm going to wake up every day and say, how can I get a little bit better? And we hear this from the best of the best. How is it that Tom Brady knows at some point in his career, he knows that he's going to retire the best quarterback, arguably the best athlete ever? How does he keep going? Because he's not competing with the records. He's competing with his potential and his purpose. And I think as an entrepreneur, Lynn, you talked about the monotony and, over and over and over and over and over. That for me is the fuel, is what am I capable of doing? And if I get there, what kind of impact is that going to have? And what's that going to mean to my legacy? Not because I need a statue, but because I want people to feel it when I'm gone because of the impact that I made. Not because I need a statue, not because I need a building named after me, because I want people to know that when Jeff Hancher walked the earth, he was able to touch other people. And if that doesn't fuel us, maybe you should question whether you should go into becoming an entrepreneur, because you're going to need that
That's
gear.
a great point.
You're going to need it.
You need it.
I'm staring at you.
I was thinking of, and this was kind of dovetailing on both of theirs, there is a lot of sacrifice to be an entrepreneur, clearly. Every one of us grew up in poverty. Broken home for me, food stamps, I remember the whole thing. So when we look at that and then we've made these decisions, and I listened to a podcast, I could not stop laughing. It was hilarious because this guy was like, I'm an influencer. And he's like, I'm up at 4 a.m. I drink a green juice. I meditate. I walk on the beach. I'm living my best life. And you're thinking, it's 7 o'clock because it's daylight savings. I'm on my second mug of coffee going, Lynn, you've got to do this. It's Monday. I am struggling.
Where's my cold plunge?
Yeah, the
Don't
cold
knock it till you try it, man.
I tried it.
Rocco's the only one doing it.
Love it.
You might be too.
I got 60 seconds in, but back to you, Lynn.
But immediately, I start thinking about Jeff, my employee, 6 kids.
Yeah.
I start thinking of right down the line of my office, and I think, they're counting on me.
That's it.
It's not about me anymore. And I said this to a friend a few weeks ago. I said, not that I could, but we have residual income. I could probably stop working and never have to work another day in my life because of the residual income. And then why am I doing it? Because it's not about me anymore.
Yeah.
And I want to give to your foundation. I want to support things that are bigger than me, because I know that all of us in these horrible situations can not only get ourselves out of it, break some degree of repetitive failure
Right.
in certain cultures, and it is just what it is. It's the easy way to go. It's the path of least resistance. And I've heard it said, when you start to come off of some of the things that are social programs, the challenge is bridging that between that and success, because you're in this middle poverty where you don't have your subsidies, you don't have your free stuff, and do you make it to the other side? Because that is extremely painful.
Absolutely.
It's much easier to stay below. And of course, if it's a fast jump, but I feel like it's on me, what I do as a trade, and I've always felt like you do not have to have a college degree to do something meaningful and successful. And unfortunately, corporate culture, which you've lived in, it's going by the wayside. We're dealing with ageism. We're dealing with, you're just gone tomorrow. Nobody cares. And all of a sudden, you're stuck. You've had one path and you don't have that security anymore. So I don't think entrepreneurship is necessarily a fun, but in some respects, people that are gifted or have some degree of ability to do that should be focusing on probably creating their own wealth, because it is not going to be given to you by a corporation.
No.
Well
It's
said.
that old adage, you can live by the paycheck or you can live by the means of your own endeavors. And, to someone that's worked 9 to 5 for 30 years for a big company, it's hard to get them to think outside that box. I totally get it. I was 10 years in to a corporate gig, sales gig, a lot of freedom, technology. It was kind of cool. But that compelling notion that I watched my father have, as much as he struggled, to watch him live by his own volition and do what he wants to do, that tore at me constantly. And when I had that little opening to make profit on something continually, I'm like, ooh, it would not be bad to be able to not count on some other entity for my my survival, so to speak. And I don't know if you can teach that. It's like, I'd like to think you can maybe nudge people potentially, but it's such a different mindset. And I think that most of the population is kind of wired to, because maybe that's how we're taught, that, you go to college and get the job and, you work the corporate political ladder and you'll be okay. You go figure and you'll do okay. But to think outside the box enough to create your own thing and be, just survive. That's a terrible word to use, but you know what I mean. Be able to take care of yourself and your family through your own means is a big undertaking to most people.
Well, and I think what Lynn said, I think is telling, because when you were talking to your friend about why do you still do it, right? I think understanding, like, because we have something we have to do. Like it's calling us forward. Like I feel the same way. Like it's not about me anymore. Like it's not. I have all these employees I'm responsible for and their families. It's about them, and that's why like I'll never stop doing what I do. No matter how much money I make, no matter how successful I get, I'll never stop because I love it. But I'm responsible for people, and that's what I think.
And that's heavy.
It's
very.
And that's
I say it as
why,
a person that didn't employ people. My sole proprietorship, even with my real estate.
Yeah.
The only people depending on me is my family, which is still a heavy weight.
Sure it is.
But when you have an extended family of employees and so forth, that's a weight that I am just really not familiar with.
It's very weighty, but it's also it's a driving force. Like that's what gets me out of bed every day, because now, like when it was me, it was I kind of knew what to do, and
it's kind of manageable.
It was manageable. And then even when Mia started with me, it was okay. There's 2 of us. Then as we've grown, now there's 11 of us. And it's like, okay, these people are all relying on me to figure this stuff out, to solve the problems, to build the business. So it's not about money. It's not about, it's not about me anymore. It's not about notoriety. It's about helping these people and serving them. And then what is, to your point, like the legacy I leave when I'm gone. Because what I'm like, when my kids put on our shirts with our logo on it and they're proud, like that's what drives me. Like seeing them do that, like put the logo on, wear it to school and they're proud of it, like that's what's driving me. So it's the legacy we're creating. And to you, like to your point, like I want to make sure, yes, I'm a lawyer and most people hate lawyers because we're people hate us. That's just who we are. I want to change that. I want to leave that. I want to leave the world and saying, oh, he was one of the good ones, and he created a firm of good people. And that's really what I'm trying to do. Break the stigma. That's it. It's really it.
I think when you were saying that, and I think we can all relate to this to some degree, is as you build a company, there are few that stay with you on the journey.
Yeah, right.
But those that do, that like believed in you before you could pay them what they deserved, and believed in you before you could pay them what they could earn elsewhere, you're really fighting for them, because you're like, right. I'm going to tell you right now, you will get yours before I get mine. And man, I will fight until the last drop of blood comes out of me to take care of those people.
Absolutely.
And man, it's so fulfilling when you do finally start to turn the corner that you're able to do that, because it's like they're just as excited because they were there when you had nothing. And they just believed in the mission. Like they believed in your potential. They were in the workshop, or they're overhearing the coaching call when the executive is like, emotional, or they're seeing the people in the workshops that we do, they're seeing the emails come through and they're like, this is it. Like, I can't see myself doing anything else. And by the way, Jeff, thanks for paying me. But man, those are the people that you want to fight. You want to talk about, like, we're not giving up on this. I'll fail 1,000,000 times and we will keep coming back. Not because we love what we do, but I want to take care of those people too, because they were there in the trench.
Certainly.
Absolutely right.
You have some original employees with you still?
Yes, I do. So it's rare, I know. There's been a lot of turnover, but there are some originals. And I think one of the things that you triggered a little bit is, there's fear. There's fear every day because I don't have it figured out. And while I have a great attorney, with the swipe of a pen.
I would concur.
And a great business coach, by the way.
I would concur.
But with the swipe of a pen, because it happened March 23rd, 2010, not that was a pivotal day in my life when healthcare reform passed, but with the swipe of a pen, my industry could be devastated. Any one of ours could. There's always something to be watching for. So
I'm living it now.
You live in this fear. I don't think there's a week, a day, a month, probably an hour that I'm not thinking about money, growth, staff, legislation, compliance, like everything that's with the business. It's not a worry, but I carry on these tiny little shoulders a huge amount of responsibility.
A lot of blind spots.
So, God, there's so many blind spots.
A lot of blind spots.
I have a million blind spots. I'm realizing that every single day. But
Yeah.
it's true. It's so hard. Like,
So how do you talk to me how you manage that? Like, because I think a lot
Pray.
of the things with people that are not entrepreneurs, they look at entrepreneurship, and of course, they what if everything. I mean, that's a human fallacy. We what if everything, but definitely someone who's not an entrepreneur that looks at entrepreneurship is going to what if themselves generally to death to the point of non-action. So, talk to me a little bit about how you get through the uncertainty at times.
Well, I would say first off, there's enough evidence to agree with anybody as to why not to become an entrepreneur. Like, I mean, there's compelling evidence. You mean it's not even close.
You don't want to do what we're doing now?
I mean, the rate of failure.
I mean, you get to be on this podcast. I mean, that's a cool thing, right?
The rate of failure in trying to make a company, forget about be successful, survive,
Yeah, for sure.
is so low.
Right.
And you see those stories, you hear those stories. So if I have a stable job making a decent income and my bills are paid and I can get my kids through college, why would I want that headache? And look, I respect that. But that's and you teed it up this way, Eric, which is, the what if I do this and it fails? For me, there were moments leading up to the decision that what overwhelmed me was, what if I don't and it was going to be amazing? And this is that funeral test moment. It's kind of cliche, but there's I'm not going to live in this regret of what could have been. And I felt like there was enough evidence there that it was worth risking it all. And literally, I feel like you have to go in it with that mindset that I am willing to risk it all, because that's when you're pretty serious about it. When you go in with that mindset, you said this early on of this isn't a money grab.
right. Yep.
If it was a money grab, I would have just stayed there. Now, look, I think there's a lot of wealth to be made, and some of the wealthiest people on the planet are entrepreneurs, but it never starts that way. And so for me, it was more thinking about the what if I don't versus the what if I do.
I think when it comes to true wealth, at least from my very limited viewpoint, just the one side of my family with a lot of entrepreneurship, it really was about mission. Like the mission of the process and the ultimate goal was always at the very top. They made a lot of money, but it was because they were always on mission and they accomplished each mission along the way, and that yielded money. It yielded wealth.
Yeah.
But it was that drive. You look at Musk and these really Uber, Bezos, and these really ultra wealthy people. I think really to get to that point, I can't imagine they woke up every day and looked at their bank book. I just don't believe that. I think it was about, can I be successful with this idea? I want to will this crazy idea I have to fruition, almost at any cost. And that's almost kind of the mentality you need, even at the lowest levels. Because that's what ultimately is the passion, is that you have an undying desire for your idea to come to fruition one way or another.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. For me, at least, I know it was one, I was just stupid. I was like, okay, I can figure it out. I didn't have a plan. I literally left corporate America with no plan. I'm like, okay, I can figure it out. That was just a stupid decision.
I can relate.
But my competitiveness is what drove me, because when I was leaving corporate America, everybody told me the stats. They said,
Of course.
a solo lawyer takes about 7 to 10 years to make 6 figures. And I said, watch me. And that was it. And then in 3 years, the firm did over 7 figures. In 3 years. And I said it takes 7 to 10 to get to 6 figures. So to me, it was the competitive drive. It's like when someone tells me I can't do it, I'm going to do it twice and take pictures.
Amen.
That's just how I'm wired.
Amen.
So it was and I thank those people for trying to discourage me. So you're in corporate America, you're making great money. I'm traveling the world. I get to see all these places in the world on someone else's dime. I would never go to Israel or Czechoslovakia or India just to go. I was going there for work. But I hated it. I hated it every single day.
But it was someone else's dream.
Yeah, it was it was someone, and I'm but I had no plans. It was there was a craziness in me where I just believed I could do it without any. I just jumped. Said, I'll figure it out. like literally just jumped. But then the competitiveness inside me is really what drove me. It's like, because I had these naysayers, the people said, no, it won't work. Trust me. Everybody's tried to do it. I'm like, well, okay. And
Let's talk about that. Talk about, so with you two, talk about the naysayers.
Oh.
Give them their little moment in the spotlight.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Or there was one that says, if you don't come work for me, I'll bury you in the insurance industry.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a feisty one.
I don't think it worked.
That's a feisty one.
Like
It's
Rocco.
kind of pathetic, isn't it?
I'm little, but I'm scrappy. So
Yeah.
I just came back at that. And not even to disprove them, just I know that I can be great at this. And I have a competitive advantage, I believe, because of there's a compassion that I feel women bring to the table, especially in something like insurance. It is the most dry, boring subject, maybe outside of law, but
It's not that dry. I try to make it interesting. Come on, I'm trying to be funny.
He's TikTok famous. Come on.
but there's something to that where when you begin, sometimes you do it to prove a point, and then it's just like you're just on a roll, and you're thinking, I am making such impact. And I love being the steward. I love what you said, Jeff, about taking the seed. It's like, if I've been given this, like I was not given as much as I wanted to. I wanted to be Whitney Houston's background singer, but clearly I'm not. Or Bruno Mars dance
And that
backup
ship has
dancer.
sailed.
That ship has sailed. I am not going on tour.
Not because of you, because Whitney Houston.
Right. It's over. But you take that seed and it's like, what have I been given and what can I do with it? And like,
Yes.
I will say, testimony to Jeff, we connected. I think I was his first client. I
You
might have
were?
been his
Very
client.
first.
And boom, my business just blew up, doubling year after year after year. And I mean, he'd had some hard conversation, made me cry.
Not on purpose.
He did. He made me cry, and he meant it. But there are
Quit your crying.
No, but there's no crying in insurance.
Just baseball.
You need to fire that person. Ugh. So, but there's so many things where if you're willing to be a learner, you're willing to be, changed, you're willing to take what you've been given, plan it, and watch it grow, that it's just literally unstoppable. You have no limits to your impact because you don't know that you're impacting me, which is impacting. We have now doubled since I've met you. We've doubled our clients. Doubled.
We're just getting
We
started.
are close to 6,000 clients now.
It's impressive.
Love it.
Unbelievable.
Love
Crazy.
it.
It's
Love
crazy.
it. Yeah, there is, to Lynn's point, I'm going to bury you. I didn't get that. I didn't get quite that harsh. But I the corporate world really, came after me with a lot of criticism because I was 24 and a half years at the same company, and went from the bottom to the top, kind of the, poster child of what's possible at the
Right.
company. And
Right.
succession planning had me on the cusp of another big promotion, probably within 12 months. And there was nothing broken. There was nothing wrong. I bled the culture. I still was passionate about the company. I wasn't running from something. I was running to something. There's a difference in those two things.
Certainly.
But, I leave in December of 2019. COVID was like this far off thing happening in China. I would have never left, because I was scared. Like, make no mistake, I wasn't this, watch me take on the world. I was scared to death. I mean, I passed out on a commercial flight. I've told you guys the stories. Like, I was scared to death. If I would have known a pandemic was coming, I would have never done it. But every opportunity to quit came my way. I got recruited more than ever before once I left that Fortune 500 company because people knew I was on the market. Big time offers coming. Are you sure you want to keep doing this? The pandemic is going to take everything that you've ever built. Telling you all these things. And it wasn't that they were trying to hurt me. They were trying to help them. And I had to find that perspective because I just wanted to shut out the noise.
Certainly.
Because it's like, man, you are tempting me so much to say yes, because that would be so easy. And then you're thinking about, all right, I'm doing the math. I could retire when I was 54. But I'm like, wait, back to the purpose. Has that changed? Has the mission changed? No. It's not a money grab. You know, this is purpose. I'm doing this on purpose. It's intentional. And as long as the mission doesn't change, nothing changes for me. Like, you're not going to come, you know, with, you know, some savvy proposal or something that's going to get me off of doing this. You know, I plan to build a lot of wealth so I can give a lot away doing it. But there was a lot of naysayers up front, you know, even family. Family sometimes is the worst. Like, and especially if you do come from poverty, it's like, have you lost your mind? Right. You're looking a gift horse right in the mouth. You're the one that finally made it out, and now you're going to give it all up. Yep. Like, so you do have to take some of that on, but man, you have to have this resilience of your mind to know that maybe you're built for a little bit more, and maybe your impact is going to hit people in a different way. And that's what fuels me to keep going through the naysayers.
I think we're all wired the way we're wired, and I thought, you know, I love my family to death, but my first wife's family and my family, coupled with all my friends back in '99, looked at my situation from the outside in and said, you know, you're out of your mind. You have no college degree, and you somehow weaseled your way to this regional sales manager position. You sit in your office all day and you sell guitars on their dime, and you have them shipped to your own office. Like, you know, you just take some brass balls. What are you doing? No one cares. The company doesn't care. You're happy. They're paying you ridiculous amounts of money. Why would you possibly take this hobby and interfere with your job, right? Just keep it going. And then there was just some compelling thing to me, or I just had that gene where I was just averse to risk. I just figured if it didn't work out, I figured out I can sell snow to the Eskimos. I'll figure it out. But right now, this is what's drawing me in, and it is what it happened the way it happened. But family and friends were not very kind in the beginning. And that's something I think would probably play against. If my constitution wasn't as strong, if my FU attitude was not as strong as it was to them all, I might have caved. Yeah. Because I literally I left my job, and literally 2 months later, my wife got pregnant with my first son.
Oh, wow.
And we were trying, but I wasn't thinking about that. I was like obsessed with this, you know, this venture. And all of a sudden I'm having a newborn, and now they really were piling on, you know, but I don't know if it's just confidence or just that insane FU attitude. You're not going to tell me what to do. You know, I didn't let my parents tell me what to do when I was 14. I'm not going to let you tell me now. I don't know. I don't know where that comes from.
I think it's a lot of. I think it's confidence. I think it's craziness. I think I do.
Definitely craziness.
I do, but I think, like, I feel like, I don't know if it's the three of you, but I feel like there's always one person that believes in you.
Yes.
Like, I'm thinking, like, my friends. Like I always said, I'm not going to take advice from people I want to trade places with. Like, I would listen to my friends. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to be where you are, so I don't really give a shit what you think.
Great point.
Yeah.
But I had one friend of mine, fraternity brother. He's a year or two older than me, very successful portfolio manager. I always respect him because he always had his life, like, he had his life plan when we were in college. Like, all his shit was organized. Like, he knew where he was going, and he did exactly what he said he was going to do. And I remember this is right when I was about to make the decision. And all my other friends, like, you're an idiot. Why would you do this? Like, you make good money, do what you want. Like, so stupid. Like, why would you do this? And I was in the car with him. We were actually going to a school. We were part of this other business. We were going to speak at the school. And I kind of just said, I want your advice on something. I said, just be honest with me. I said, you've known me since college. I said, here's what I'm thinking about doing. And he looked at me. He's like, you're going to wish you did it 5 years sooner. That's all he said to me. And in that moment, it was like, that's it. Like, that was a confirmation. I don't know why I needed that confirmation, but I felt like I needed someone that I respected to say, this isn't a dumb idea. And that's all it took was that one person to say that one, like, small sentence to me. That was the only part of the conversation. That was it. And that from there, it was just like, I didn't look back. But I feel like I needed that because I was kind of teetering on that. I was like, you know, it was just like, do I do this? Because it's like, I was the breadwinner. You know, I had the benefits. And I'm like, I have a son going to college soon. I have 2 little girls. I have a wife. I'm like, oh shit, like, what am I doing? We had just built a house a few years ago. I'm like, well, this makes sense to quit. Like, totally. So, and all my friends like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? And then he was like, you would have wished we'd done it 5 years sooner.
Yeah,
That's all it took.
similar story. And we just did that one friend that actually thought that, you could pull it off. And he was the only friend that I had in my sphere that I would actually change places with. He was organized with his life. He was principled, religious man, which meant something to me. Like, he really was. And he played guitar like no one's business. Everything just lined up. Jim was the one friend who said, "Hey, I think you can do this." I mean, I've watched you, buy used guitars and sell them for ridiculous amounts of money, and I laugh. It just doesn't make any sense to me. With this internet thing, it doesn't look like it's going away. And he said to me, he goes, "I give 2 pieces of advice: go out and buy QuickBooks 99 to get your, to start getting QuickBooks, and you're gonna need." So think about the year now, 99. But he said, and get some good legal advice. So I only took half of his advice. He did give me both. That was
Where's the TurboTax?
And I figured, well, you know what?
Smart man.
Who's gonna sue me now? I mean, I'm this little peon on his eBay thing. Who's gonna sue me? Right?
Yeah, you're not gonna get anything.
6 years later, like trademark issues, they're stealing my designs. I mean, there you go, with total shit show. But yeah, he was the one voice of reason, and I said, well, you know what? His opinion held weight because I respected who he was and his accomplishments. Yeah. And vice versa, when he would want to, smack me in the head when I was fucking up too. I needed to listen to that as well.
Yeah.
So
I think you have to have voices, but to Rocco's point earlier, you got to be careful of what voices you're hearing. And sometimes the mistake that I see is that people will surround themselves by people that will tell them what they want to hear. Like, don't go ask your mom if you're doing a good job, right?
But isn't that most circles, though, really? Most circles are that way, right? It's like an echo chamber.
Yeah, and I'm telling you. And here's reality, is not everybody should do this. Like, not everybody should be an entrepreneur. You would be doing yourself a disservice. We're all still fighting the fight, but I feel like this entrepreneur thing has become this trendy, sexy thing that everybody feels like they should do, and I just don't agree with that. I think everybody has gifts and skills that bring value to the world, and finding those and seeing them to their fullest potential. There are, world-class athletes that are never going to be entrepreneurs working for the man, and they're doing just fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think taking the bait of, well, this is the trendy, sexy thing to do, so let me, at happy hour, let me ask everybody, hey, guys, do you think it'd be a good idea for me to launch out and start my own company? Yeah. Oh yeah, YOLO, man, do it. Jump, and
by the way, buy another round.
Yeah, it's like, man, you better know who your circle is, and it can't just be a bunch of yes sirs and paparazzi that are cheering you on, because that sound fair fades really fast. Really fast.
You need to talk to other entrepreneurs. That's
absolutely
the circle.
do.
If you're going to make that
trust.
decision, that's got to be part of your. Yes. If you're going to seek counsel.
Yes.
For the decision.
Absolutely.
Yes. I think some of that counsel should be entrepreneurs.
Yes. And when you ask somebody, like, a good way to know if you're getting good advice is they don't answer the question. They ask you questions.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Why do you want to do this? Why do you think it makes sense? And so on and so on. But finding those people, 2 things literally can change who you become and the decisions you make. What you consume and who you surround yourself with. Absolutely. And finding those circles are hard, but man, fight to find them. Somebody mentioned it earlier about, like, you can't just read a book. I think it was you, Eric. It's so true. Like, I can't read a Tiger Woods book and then, go play like Tiger. Right. But if I spend time with Tiger and read his book, now I can start to transform. I think that's a good way to think about, like, if I'm processing this, should I or shouldn't I get around the right people that's going to give you real advice, not a pep rally.
True story.
That's so I don't know if people don't do that out of fear or
pride,
laziness,
hard conversations.
Pride.
Yeah.
I was a gymnast, and I remember, when you go back and you start thinking about all the people that had the most impact, it was always the one that was the hardest. Danny Warbutton, he was almost an Olympian. He was my gymnastics coach, and I remember I was doing this vault over and over again, and I couldn't stop doing. I was piking, and they didn't want you to pike. I had to stay perfectly straight, perfectly straight. He finally, these were before the days where coaches could do this. He grabbed my feet off the vault and shoved me into the pit, and told me to get out and do 100 pops, which are like where you bring your feet and your legs up at the same time. My neck was so sore the next day. Like, I couldn't talk the next day. And I think, but he was doing it to make me so much better. And from that moment, I would always seek out people to tell me, what am I doing wrong? My blind spots, where am I at? And I remember just, my first business coach, before I even knew you existed, he was an efficiency expert who worked for a global company. They flew him all over the world. And I remember he gave me one thing that transformed my entire business at that point. And he said, strengthen your strengths, hire your weaknesses. And it was like, oh, that was so transformative. To put me in front of an Excel spreadsheet was to put a gun to my head. I am miserable in front of a computer. Just put me out with the people. Now today I see how my company operates, and I'm literally texting in the car, like, book me a flight to Nashville, and I need this done, and can you do this and run that report? Like, I'm not doing any of that. I'm just voice texting someone to do it all. And yet, to your point, Jeff, we need those people too. Who am I gonna do that to if everybody in my team's an entrepreneur?
Oh, we
can't do it.
Roles.
Yeah.
We can't do it.
I mean,
you need people to give you honest feedback. That's really what I've learned over time. Like, you really need to get honest feedback.
how hard is it to get that today?
It's very hard because everybody's like, they want to sell you their product.
No one wants to be offended either. So
Say
it's
that.
like, people are afraid to give you honest feedback because they think they might offend you.
Or they want you to think they have it all figured out.
That's the other side of the equation.
Like when people ask you about entrepreneurship, I'm like, it's like having a baby. You can't see, you can't hold, shits on you all the time. And if you care for it long enough, it'll turn into a good kid. But most people throw away the baby.
It's true.
That's really what it is. It's literally like being an entrepreneur, running a business for the first couple of years. It's literally like having a baby. It shits on you all the time. You can't see. It's not cute. It's just ugly, and it's just demanding. Yes, and but you've got to push through, and then they become this beautiful. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah.
And when people, like you said, not everybody's cut out for it.
I think it's harder than raising kids, man. I'm a guy saying this, so I'm saying
it's different. It's different. I will say, like, raising kids is a whole different ballgame, but. Being an entrepreneur, because there's so many things you have to keep your eye on. Like, just today I was realizing that we're talking about all these different things going on. And I'm like, and a couple people in my office were like, well, we shouldn't be thinking about that. I said, that's my job to think. My job is to anticipate 5 moves ahead. Right. Like, you guys don't have to do that. Like, you focus here. I have to always be looking 5 moves ahead. And that's part of being an entrepreneur. And it's so hard to do. And people need to understand, like, you have to be willing to literally grind it out for 5 years minimum to see any kind of really good results. There are the exceptions every once in a while, but anyone I know in my circles is an entrepreneur. Those first 5 years are hard. It's a grind. I
had the opposite. I had the opposite and did not get the processes under control with the instant success. I had a windfall because a certain guitar we handled, it just exploded, and I had the opposite. And I'm probably the prime example of how not to handle instant success.
That's the Shark Tank effect.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, that can be detrimental.
Well, I mean, I was a horse trader, meaning like I just bought used guitars all over the country, turned around, marked them up, and sold them for profit. That's all. Like a used car salesperson, but I was all over the world. And I got this exclusive contract with a company called Washburn Guitars, and we started doing some designs. And I had it started to hit Roger Waters. I mean, I really got lucky, right place, right time. And then an artist passed away, Dimebag Darrell, guitar player. While I was sitting on hundreds and hundreds of his guitars that I had ordered prior to him passing, that we sold, not egregiously, but it was certainly a windfall over a couple of years, and that made then we became famous in the guitar circles for having these guitars, and that launched all the other opportunities. Well, when the windfall was coming those first couple of years, and I was seeing checks that just, humble kid from Coriopolis does not see $340,000 checks. I just don't see that stuff. So of course I went out of my fucking mind. had a second wife who had no problem spending money either. It was just nuts, just totally nuts. So, I wasn't totally crazy. We sustained growth and we did some other things, and Paul Stanley came along. It really worked out. But the mismanagement and the immaturity that I showed, I take full ownership of it. But I look at that now. The situation was unique, but I didn't have the toolbox necessary. I wasn't humble enough to seek better counsel for management of money and how exposed I was to legal issues and everything else. I was just like, hey, it's vacation time.
Make hay while the sun is shining.
No, but I mean, the maturity thing is a big thing. Like I also had the problem too that coming from a humble background, that I was in a business that I absolutely love, like music and rock and roll and everything was just on top of that windfall was the access now to this crazy world that I only dreamed of as a young kid, listening to this music. And now I'm like interacting. It was the best of times in every way, but on reflection, it also was the most dangerous and the worst of times because I was not prepared for it. And I think we talk about lessons a lot, and I don't know how you feel about this in your industry, but again, Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn used to always say that we really got this whole self-development thing all backwards. What we really should be doing is bringing in people who have just had everything and just messed it all up. And we should be paying them exorbitant amounts of money to go tell their story.
Right.
Yes.
Because that's the shit that people can hear and look at in astonishment and say, well, I ain't making that mistake. We don't do that, though. We bring in the icons of industry to tell you how they did it, and that's great. But I think sometimes if you want to really hit people, you gotta be unvarnished, and you gotta bring the raw.
You do.
And sometimes I think you gotta bring the losers in.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ones that want to talk about.
Imagine there's so much to that. We actually talked about this in a group conversation not that long ago. You referenced Elon Musk earlier and some of the titans of industry, if you will. Elon Musk has built a culture of failure. He incentivizes it.
Right.
Like matter of fact, if you're not failing to quota, your job might be in jeopardy. It's like he believes in failing so much as a way of catapulting. And I agree with you, Eric, that, now look, I think you can learn from success because success leaves a trail, right? But I will tell you, the biggest innovation always comes from failure, whether it's in your own business. Like, bet if you lose your biggest customer and they tell you why, and they tell you what the other competitor did differently, that you don't begin to innovate organically and become stronger and better than you once were. Like, what was, this failure is a bruise, not a tattoo. It's true. And, I'm embarking now on year 5, to your earlier point, Rocco, and I'm starting to finally see where the momentum is. But I got to tell you, those first 4 years, I mean, I was doing my own QuickBooks. It was such...
Yeah, but you weren't doing 99.
We've all done it.
And if you know me, like, that is comical.
Oh.
Like, yeah, it was just such a disaster. But I learned a lot from it. Now, I had great mentors that touched the stove and said, don't do that, do this. So I think you can learn from that too. But this organic, I'm just going to run and fall and figure it out. And here's proof. Forget about my opinion. There is data that tells us, whether you agree with this or not, and legal or illegal, forget about it for just a second. Immigrants, by and large, have a greater success rate as entrepreneurs than anybody else. Well, why is that? Because failure literally is not an option. They're not going to get hired by the man because they don't speak a certain way, look a certain way. So to your point, Rocco, I will show up, I will grind, I will fail, I will come back, I will be resilient. I have mouths to feed, I'm not stopping. So this first 5 years, to Rocco's point, I'm telling you, there is something magical, and I don't know your thoughts on it, Lynn, but my gosh, if you can keep getting kicked and keep coming back, the lessons you learn in that will sharpen your go-to-market strategy more than HubSpot ever could.
100%.
Hats off to HubSpot, nonetheless. But the first 4 are hard. First 5
brutal.
are hard.
Yeah.
brutal. I remember I'd lived in Chicago and I'd moved back here, and I was still trying to maintain that Chicago presence, and we weren't doing Zoom yet. It was 2013, so it was kind of before all that. So I was going to see my clients like every 2-3 weeks, staying with friends in their basement. And I remember being in Chicago one time and not having enough money, gas money, to get home. And I'm in their basement, and I'm thinking, I wonder how much longer I can stay here till another commission hits. This is 2013. This is not 20 years ago. And just multiple trips like that, like just praying, I'd have enough on the debit card to put gas in my car to go somewhere, to send one more letter campaign or whatever I was doing at the time. So that's where, again, you become resilient in a way you never thought you were going to become resilient. And that is where people either quit or that's the thing that makes you steal. My son would joke with me and he'd say, listen, a bomb could go off in the room, and Mom would just look at it and go, we should clean that up. He goes, you are unrattleable. And I was like, because I have faced off with so many issues, whether it's business, personal, whatever. I've made horrible mistakes that I've had to climb my way out of. But that's what creates that pillar where people are turning to you and saying, how did you, and you can give them the guidance. I'm not just telling you it will work. I have done it.
You got to be comfortable in chaos. That's what I've learned.
100%.
Like I first of all, I love chaos. Like that's just
we do love it, don't we? Why?
I create chaos. Like if things are going too well, I'm like, let's just toss a bomb in the room and see
back
what
to
happens.
hanging out on the beach. Like I'm building sandcastles.
Exactly. Like it could be like if
He's
things
running
are
the
going,
taco ship.
if things are literally going too well, I'm like, this seems too easy. What can I do to cause some chaos? Because I operate better under pressure, and
Right.
and I think that's why entrepreneurship is so hard for people.
You'll grow out of that.
No, I don't think I will.
I don't think I will.
I finally did.
I love it because one, it keeps you sharp, right? It keeps you on your toes. Like if I didn't have chaos to deal with every day, I feel like I'd be losing my edge, and that gives me that edge. And that's why I think a lot of people have a hard time with entrepreneurship, because I live in a state of being uncomfortable.
Yes.
There's not one day I go, I'm comfortable today. This feels great. Like I know, I have it all figured out.
You'll
I'm
create
good.
it.
Yeah, and if I get to that point, I'm like, I'm missing something. Like if I feel like if I come to the office and things seem like too calm, I'm like, what am I missing? Something is amiss. I'm not seeing something. And I try and take a step back and relook at things or take a different perspective. But that's why it's hard for a lot of people, because that being uncomfortable all the time. I mean, as humans, we seek comfort by nature.
Certainly.
So entrepreneurs, we don't. Like we seek being uncomfortable. So I think that's what makes it hard, but you have to get very, very comfortable with yourself and living in that constant state of chaos.
Yeah, you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's almost an entrepreneurial requirement. And
it's ugly.
It's
gross, dirty.
It's ugly. In the beginning, it's like there's that honeymoon phase when you first start your business. Especially if you have a little bit of success and things are kind of working out. I mean, like I said, I had it the worst way. I had even before the Washburn contract, like in 99, 98. I could buy an item, put it on eBay, and double my money while still collecting $100,000, and I'm like a schmuck with no degree. 99, I'm living pretty good, right? That was not reality. Now, that was my reality at that moment, but I was not sophisticated enough of an entrepreneur, even a business person, to understand that is not a sustainable reality. There's going to be market changes. This eBay thing may go away or it may change. I learned quickly that things are not quite as they seem, and you learn to adapt. But I would have rather have had the harder years early to prepare for success later.
Yeah,
success early sucks.
Oh,
that's like going to the casino.
That's exactly what it was.
First time I played craps, I won. I'm like, I figured this game out. Like I'm going to win every time, and I haven't won. Like
It's a mind screw.
I agree.
It is.
It's rare too.
It is. It's very rare.
Yes.
And of course, and what's even crazier is all the people that told you, you're out of your mind not to do it. Then they see the success and like you're like the top of the heap. People are asking you to go on vacation, go golfing with them. They think somehow your magic's going to rub off on them if you're hanging around them.
Yeah.
And it was like I just couldn't believe that I was. And the thing is, what's disheartening about entrepreneurship too is when you, or anything in life, is when that your bullshit is just bullshit, and inside it isn't like you're deluded to believe your own bullshit. You're really not. You play like you are, but the reality is, inside, it's not always going to be like this, and you're not preparing for the future, Eric. It's like, but we're all very given to taking the easiest route, the easiest path, and it's just I just wish my journey would have been reversed, would have been more traditional, and I would have struggled out of the gate and had to figure it out and make it go. Because I will tell you, having early success is a bitch.
Man, well, I think if most entrepreneurs were honest, a lot of entrepreneurs, I know what I would say is, I'm the farthest thing from having this figured out.
Right.
Like, I wake up every day wondering, like a little dash of imposter syndrome here and a little bit of insecurity here. Like, of course, you have to have this level of swagger about you to keep going and to add value to what you're doing. But I think you always battle that a little bit, because, I wake up every day, even if I have success, and I look at it and I'm like, gosh, I really don't even know what I'm doing, and things are working out somehow. Like, so
let's talk about that imposter syndrome. Let's talk about that, because that's something that does not get talked about a lot.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Every day. Every day.
Every day.
Every single day.
Still for you
Every
three.
day.
Oh, my. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Because to your point, you said earlier, I'm never gonna feel like I arrive. Right. That's never gonna cross my mind. Like, oh, I got it all figured out. And I'm like you. I wake up every day. I'm like, I get to the office. I'm like, we did this. I have no idea how. Like, I have no idea.
Can I do it? Can it keep going?
Right? There are days where
Is it gonna be gone tomorrow?
Like, I walk into my office. Like last week, my assistant Jasmine was out. She was in a car wreck, and she's okay, thank God. But she was out all week, and I was like coming off. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, she usually comes in with a folder and tells me what to do. And I'm like, I feel like a baby. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do today. And it's like, but that's like the imposter syndrome. And we're done. You come in, I'm like, where's my folder? I'm like, oh, she's not here. I'm like, oh. I got to figure out what to do. But it's true. Like, and that's what I say to people. And it's hard. And I explain that to Laura, because I'm like, I want her to understand something. Like, when I have those bad days, I'm like, it's because everybody thinks I'm Superman. Everybody thinks they have it all figured out. No one ever checks in and says, "Hey, are you okay?"
Right.
Like, do you have it all? Are you okay? Because no one ever does that. And I mean, my people do. I mean, they care and they try and help as much as they can. But to the point of, like, are you okay? Like, mentally, can you handle it today? Because there are some days where I'm like, I'm done. Like, I can't. Right. Like, I'm just.
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm here. I don't know why these people follow me. I don't know why people think I know what I'm doing. I have no idea. But it's hard. And that imposter syndrome never goes away. It's always right behind you. It really is. And is
it because you think that what you do? I mean, it can't be because you think that what you do, anyone can do.
I think that way. I don't think I'm anything special. I just think
okay. So you had that you had the complexity of the law there. That's a portion of it. But because I used to think to myself, literally all the time, even when it was really good, I would be at, like, these events with famous musicians that I had their posters on the wall as a kid, and they're calling me by my first name, and sitting down and, like, just being around people that I had no business being around. Being at homes of these people that I had no, in my head, right? No business being around. Like, this is like, and I always tell Rocco, I said, sometimes I don't think I enjoyed that enough. I didn't really take stock and really enjoy it. But I constantly felt like either I'm extremely lucky or I'm faking it and they're going to figure me out, which is the imposter thing. But regardless of what feeling I was having at the moment, it was always unsettling. But I was always a realist that this could go away at any moment in time. I did have that, and that may have prohibited me from maybe enjoying the highs fully. Maybe it saved my life that I didn't enjoy the highs fully, because there was a lot of things to get me high around the rooms that I was in. But generally, it was really interesting that I didn't believe that I was actually worthy. I used to design guitars and then we'd sell a bunch of them. I'm like, I just dumbed down the whole process in my head. Like, it didn't have any value. Like, I just did this on a whim and look what happened. Like, I'm fooling everybody and they're going to figure it out someday.
Yeah.
I felt like that constantly.
Me too.
Every day.
Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I follow. I'm a voracious consumer of podcasts. So here I am. I'm watching Cody Sanchez. She's like 39 years old. She's a billionaire. She has 26 businesses, and I'm forever trying to be her. I'm like, I don't know anything. Literally, nothing. I have one story. I could tell the insurance story. And you circle through that, and I mean, I found myself in boardrooms that I have just sat on, way beyond my level. I mean,
Like, how did I get here?
how did I get here?
Right.
And in the illustration
I
in
don't know
my
how I got
mind
here tonight with you three.
is I am wearing, like when little girls would dress up, they put on their mom's dress shoes. That's how I feel. I'm like, I put on somebody else's shoes, somebody else's, and so you're constantly in this. But I think that's what actually creates the ability to receive correction and to continue to grow. So I don't think
like
it's
humility?
a negative thing.
Like
Yeah,
humility?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think too, this imposter syndrome thing, it really does come down to a couple things that I've learned, at least for my journey, is not feeling like I'm worthy of it.
Right.
I'm not worthy of that kind of success because where I came from. I'm not worthy of that kind of success because I'm uneducated. People are more qualified to do this than me.
Like a self-imposed limitation?
100%. And I will tell you, I battled it. I mean, I battle it less now than I ever have before.
Okay.
Early on, it was an absolute struggle. I mean, I back to like I was in places I didn't belong. I didn't know how to use all the silverware at the table. I didn't know what to do with the napkin. I would take paper bags on vacation for my toiletries. Like I didn't know what I was doing. And it's embarrassing when you learn that you're not the same as everybody.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, and I hope somebody listening, this serves them. Something that I started doing about 10 years ago was I created what I call my treasure chest. And as I would serve people as a leader or just as a man, and they would, whether it was an email, a note, whatever it might be, I would save it and I put it in this box. And I went to Georgia about a month and a half ago to one of the biggest events that I ever had in my life. And I was so intimidated, even now after all these years. And before I left for the airport, I pulled open that treasure chest and I started looking at notes of companies that I helped get over the hump. A leader that I helped stay in the game to serve other people. And then all of a sudden, this confidence built in me that I'm not doing this for the accolade. I'm not doing this to be better than the people in the room that I'm going to. I'm doing this to serve people, and if I don't, I'm letting them down. And then this worthiness of, I don't have to be worthy to do this task or go on this mission. I'm doing this so that I can serve people in a bigger manner, has helped me push through this imposter syndrome. And I would challenge anybody that faces that don't limit yourself. You are worthy of more, and there are people counting on you to take that step. And that's how that has served me well through the years.
I'll share this. So, 2005, I think, I went to Chicago to the Washburn plant because I had a very busy weekend with all these guitar stuff going on. But the point was there was going to be a concert on a Friday night with this very heavy band. It was very famous, but very heavy band was playing at the House of Blues in Chicago. We were going to present the guitar player a guitar and all this stuff. So here I am at this House of Blues carrying this big guitar in, and I'm there the whole night. And there's a mosh pit, and Keanu Reeves was actually in the mosh pit. And that was when, I saw him down there swinging and fighting people. And it was kind of cool. Neo was in the mosh pit. But I went through that whole experience and got back to the hotel room. I was just like, this is like brutal, man. My ears were like bleeding. It was so loud. And then the next night, the president of Washburn takes my wife and I with his wife to this exclusive country club in Chicago. And I'm sitting there, and it's like out on this lake, and there's, you're at an exclusive place when there's no prices on the menu.
Oh, yeah.
And there's only 4 items you can choose on the menu, right? And And he rejected 5 bottles of wine they tried to bring to the table, and he tasted and didn't like any of them and sent them all back. And I looked at him halfway through this meal, and I said, Rudy, last night I was at the so-and-so concert. I'm trying to not out anybody. And he goes, oh, yes. And I said, well, here I am tonight. And I'm like, I just feel like I'm an absolute imposter, like someone living in another body. I'm like this river rat from a small town, Coriopolis. I don't know how this happened. And he said to me, it's happened, my boy, because you had the courage to do things that other people who are not sitting here tonight obviously didn't have. And I go, he goes, just think about it, you'll figure it out. And I dwelled on that for so long. But his point was that it comes to the courage of having the ability to start and believe in an idea and bring it to fruition, regardless of how crazy or insane that anyone else might believe it. You had the courage to do it and keep doing it until it works. He's saying, I belonged at that table. I belonged at that crazy concert. Although I didn't fit in, you belonged there because that was part of your business. You created the opportunity, because it really came down to creating these special and unique and diverse opportunities. Mm-hmm. And in my particular field, they were very diverse and very odd, but it came down to me not valuing what I did. And it was very easy for him to see that I was struggling with that, I think. I will never forget that advice.
I don't know if that struggle ever goes away, though. I don't know that it does. I feel like it may be lessons, but I feel like I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I'm like, I belong here. Like, I feel like there are certain instances where I have those moments, but there's always that imposter syndrome in the back. Like when I've met like professional athletes and talk, not like I'm not a starstruck person, but I'm just thinking like I'm having conversations with like pro athletes. I'm like, why? Like, you know, it's just weird. You get to that. I get it. You get to that point where I don't think it ever goes away. Right. Because I think if it does, then you're missing something. Mm-hmm. I think if you're not constantly questioning yourself, then you're definitely missing out opportunities for growth. Because I think the fact of me questioning myself all the time in everything I do and every loss I've had and that makes me get better. Because if I stop questioning it and just thinking, I'm good.
See, I think that's the magic of it. I think that's the magic of you sitting in a room with a pro athlete. Mm-hmm. I think that's the magic of it. And if you get to the point where you're not questioning yourself anymore and you're taking it for granted, then you lose a little bit of the magic. It becomes that situation becomes an also ran within your life, and that can become dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. There's another side, I think, to imposter syndrome where I was operating, and thankfully the career that I have allowed me tremendous flexibility in scheduling. So I never missed, my kids' baseball games and track meets and, dance recitals and all of it. I was at everything all the time. But what they didn't see was the Saturdays, the Sundays, the Friday nights, where I went 20 years of my life. I don't think I watched movies, went to concerts, had any social life at all. I was raising my kids, building a business. I was involved in my church. That was it. So when I engage today, it's like, number one, people think what I do is easy because I make it look easy, and it is not. But then I also feel like I miss this whole demographic where I get a little bit looked down on. Because, we laugh. It's like, have you seen The Godfather? I have not seen The Godfather. When did I have time? I was raising 4 kids, building a business. It was like, I didn't have time.
I get it, Lynn.
So there's this whole cycle in my head. And Jeff and I have been through multiple people being hired. Mm-hmm. And them coming into my office in tears. I can't do this. It's too hard. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's not too hard. I can do it. But that's an imposter syndrome where maybe you're making things look, and social media helps us do that. Mm-hmm. If you'll notice, I'm off for a minute. Yeah. I just couldn't take it anymore. I just had to pull the plug. There's just so much out there, and we can curate our image. Mm-hmm. And so when people step into our lives and they're like, you do what? What time? And you have to, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's even that where you try to make it look better than it is. And it's really tough in the gym, lifting to failure every day, everything. Like you said, Rocco, you're managing everything. I'm cleaning the toilet. I'm fixing the copier. I'm managing payroll. I'm doing it all.
Is there a social delusion to entrepreneurship?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
1,000%.
It's out
sure.
there. It's the guy on the beach taking cold plunges and drinking green juices at 4 a.m. That's him.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I did just do the first cold plunge.
Well, and
Talk me into it, because I can't.
It is the best thing ever.
Technically, it was the second cold plunge because
Okay.
the first one I only went to my knees.
Can you talk me
And-
into it, either
and
one of you?
squealed.
Okay.
But I'm like, you know what? Back to competitive. Like, I'm so competitive that I'm like, there's no way I'm going back on this group call and telling them that I punked out.
Yeah,
Like,
right on, right on.
So then, very next day, I
Right
didn't
on.
even think about it. I was full speedo even,
I don't do that.
and I didn't even think about it.
It didn't happen
Broke
if there's
the
no
ice.
photos, man.
Boom.
That's all I'm saying.
Jumped right in there. 60 seconds was the goal.
Okay, good.
I mean, I'm not
video.
setting
I want to see
records.
video clip, man.
It's coming because the next one's a minute 30, and we're gonna work up
Listen,
to it.
it is the best thing
So I
ever.
can't use my scuba gear.
Yeah, well, you know why? I don't know why everybody else
wetsuit.
does it, but the reason I did it was remember how you were saying earlier about you need a challenge?
Yeah.
I'm not even doing it for the health benefits. Like, I'm doing it to teach my mind that my mind is not the boss.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You know, I'll tell you what you're doing. Like, I know
yeah.
you. So I try to find things like that because the mind is such a powerful thing.
Yes.
And so, like, did I feel exhilarated after? Yeah. I mean, my body thought it was dying.
you got to get past 60 seconds. I'm telling you.
I know.
Like, it is truly like the health benefits of it. Like I feel great afterwards, but it's the mind thing to me. It's like
That's all it was for me.
I'll go 5 minutes
Because I hate the cold.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
but
got
it's-
to buy one of these.
I'm telling you, it is like I go 5 minutes. Like, and you got to get past this. The first 60 seconds, your body shivers.
I felt that at like the last 10 seconds, I
stops.
felt to start calming down.
Yes.
But I'm like, I hit the goal. I'm getting out of here.
And then I just become very peaceful. Like, I have headphones in. I'm usually listening to something.
So
but
how long
I
do you stay in there?
5 minutes. I go 5 minutes.
It's impressive.
I mean, I went up to 7, but there's no real benefit past 5 from what I've read. So I'm like, I'm not going to make myself sit out here for 2 more minutes and get frostbite. But it's truly like it feels so like I feel so like your brain wakes up. Like it truly, for some reason it makes your brain fire. But the key is not to try and let your body warm up naturally. Like, don't go get a shower afterwards. Don't get in a sauna. Like, that's one thing I've learned, that just let your body warm up naturally. And it just changes the way your brain. It's weird. Like, it's awesome.
Okay, so help me understand this. I would get up in the morning, take my shower, then immediately go down and jump in this thing.
You can do however you want. Like, I'll do it like either like if I work out in the morning, I'll do like cardio in the morning. So either before I do cardio or after I do cardio, I'll do it, and then I'll usually wait to shower. I usually try and do it before cardio, and then do cardio to warm up.
Okay.
But it's on my back patio. So if it's 30 degrees outside, like sometimes I have to break the ice off the top. Yeah, but I like it, to your point. Like I like to do things I don't think I can do. Like my brain's like, don't do this. This is
I
too
hate
cold.
it.
You're big into beating your brain into submission.
Yeah, definitely.
You are definitely into that.
100%. Yes, I like to. Do
I think
things.
it's important.
It is.
It is.
Mental resilience is underrated.
Boy, you ain't
1,000%.
kidding.
Exactly.
And,
Absolutely.
think about this. If you're in the jungle and a lion is coming to kill you, there's none of this. Oh, I can't. How dare that lion? I can't believe it. How unfair. I can't believe I'm being
Unfair,
treated like
unfair.
this. Like, this is like,
I'm offended.
I'm
You
about.
can't cancel the lion.
No. And isn't that true real
Yeah,
life?
that is real
Right.
life.
This lion's offending.
But yet we've created this environment that we can poor me. I can't believe this is happening to me.
Yes.
I got dealt a bad hand. You're not saying that to the lion when it's mano a mano. No, you're fighting for your life. You're clawing
1,000,000%.
eyes. You're doing whatever you got to
1,000,000%.
do because your mind got to a different place.
Yes.
And we have to, just like we condition our body, we have to condition our mind.
Oh yeah.
And you got to find things like, hey, look, become an entrepreneur. You want to talk about like conditioning your mind. Like, yeah, 100%. But you can't just rest like anything else. Your mind needs to be, it's got to move. It's got to be challenged. And we talked about athletes. Like, the greatest athletes do this. They figure out ways. Like, how is it after, 6 Super Bowls, Tom Brady's like, you know what? We're going to do even better next year. How do we make that happen? How do we, like, that's a different mental gear.
Yeah.
And, like, I heard about the cold plunge, but ultimately why I made the decision was I hate the cold, Like, I'm telling you, I hate the cold so bad. And I mean, like, I heard it's good for inflammation and I believe it, but I'm like, I'm jumping in there because I need to beat my mind.
Right.
And I think we have to find ways as entrepreneurs to do that. Some, it could be the circle that you're in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, why are you doing that, Hancher? That's the dumbest thing. Like, try this or do that. That's another way to challenge your thinking, is getting around people that are challenging or at least questioning, why are you doing it that way? But man, we got to challenge the mind.
One thing that I've learned to do, like, I'm right-handed. So, like, I do things left-handed sometimes. I can brush my teeth left-handed. Like, I try and do things with my non-dominant hand because it just makes, and it's so hard to do. Like, it's
terribly hard.
Like, but it makes your brain work differently. Like, I'm constantly trying to find ways.
Try playing guitar in reverse.
Well, I don't want to do that. I mean,
I can't play
I've
guitar.
tried that many times. I've given up.
No, I can't play guitar. But it's like brushing your teeth, like doing things you normally would do with your right hand. And it's just those little things that people don't think of. It's truly making incremental improvements. Like, you don't have to do big things. You just got to do little things consistently. And that's where people get hung up. They think to be successful or to be this entrepreneur, you got to do these grand things. It's like, no, just find little daily things you can do on a consistent basis. And if you do it over a long enough period of time, you'll be successful.
We're just all so impatient.
That's exactly right.
For everything. And I'm not saying that's a new phenomenon.
No.
But it just seems like it's accentuated with, like, social media now, that there's an immediacy requirement in our lives.
Yeah.
Even though it's probably no different than it was before. But
I have a question for the table, because I'm just curious based off of my life. We're talking about competitiveness. Do you ever find that gets out of control?
Ask him.
Because I have an example I want to share. Because whenever, like, something happens, especially my family, because it's who I spend the most time with. But I remember playing basketball with my son in our driveway, and I was trying to make a behind the board shot, like over the board in, and we're just playing a game of pig or something. And then after we were done playing the game of pig, I tried to make the shot like 10 times, couldn't make the shot. It was probably a solid 4 hours that I stayed out there until I buried the shot.
Jeff.
And I'm like, I'm not leaving. I'm not going in the house. Janelle comes out and is like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I got to beat my mind. I'm not leaving until the shot goes in. Is that a theme?
Listen, I get that completely. Like, I'm competitive to a fault. And certain, like, that's why Matt got me to do just half Ironman, which unfortunately now I have a torn rotator cuff, which I still got to go see the doctors. I'm trying to fight through it, hoping I can do the swimming, but there's no reason I should be doing a half Ironman. Like, I don't swim, I didn't own a bike, and I hate running. And he's like, "Want to do this?" I'm like,
viable reasons for me.
Then it's like I have to win now. I have to beat you. And it's like I went out and bought a bike and did all this stuff, and now I have a shoulder injury. So, but yeah, like that, I've always been super competitive.
I just wonder if there's like parallels with that. Like, I'm thinking of the listener is like, yeah, you know what? That's kind of me too. Well, this might be a path for you.
It is.
Because like, you're not going to quit. Or you're not going to just fold up for the day when it's not this way. Now, I'm not saying that's healthy, because I will tell you more times than not, it's been a problem. And I married the right person for this, thank goodness. But I will tell you, like, it becomes a little compulsive. But I feel like when I talk to a lot of successful entrepreneurs, I start seeing some similarities in that way.
Yeah.
I'm extremely competitive. And it is on certain things, not on everything. But yeah, there's some kind of drive in me that if I am not succeeding at something, or at least competent, I will fight, scrap, learn, try it again. Like you, I'll be the 4 hours in the driveway trying to get that shot. And in my case, as the only unmarried one in the room, it's lonely. Entrepreneurship is lonely.
Oh, yeah.
I grinded. I was working till almost 10 o'clock last night, and then I got nobody to talk to. Nobody to talk to about my day and what's going on. And it's like, that's a whole other thing where we might go back to, there is no knight in shining armor. There's nobody coming to rescue me. I'm it. So there's that additional responsibility. But yeah, there's something about me that I can't fail. I can't afford to fail. There is no, somebody else is going to pay my bills. I'm paying my bills. So The entrepreneurship journey, I think, just as a whole, whether you're married or not, there's a real alone time to that.
Oh,
It's very lonely.
It's the loneliest thing you'll do. Like, it's no one understands it until you're in it. Like, I always say, like, I work with a ton of amazing people,
Right.
but I feel lonely every day.
Absolutely.
Like, and it's so, like, when people hear you say, they're like, well, I don't understand that. They can't make it make sense in their head. It's like, well, there are just certain things that I have to take the burden on that I can't share. Even
Right.
with my wife, like, there's certain things that she'll never understand because she's not there day to day. She can just be there to listen, but she can't really advise, or because she doesn't know the weight I'm carrying every day. And that's the same thing with just being responsible for people. Like, you carry a lot of weight that people don't see. And I remember watching this video. It was a couple weeks ago on TikTok, and it was a guy was talking about. He's like, and he was referring to a man, but I think it's any entrepreneur. He's like, he gets up every morning and puts on a backpack, and that backpack's full of bricks, but no one sees how many bricks are in the backpack, and they just carry it all day. And they carry it all day, and that's just what that journey is. It's like you carry this weight or this backpack full of bricks, and that's the problems, the issues, the people you're responsible for, all this stuff. And it's the more successful you get, the backpack doesn't get lighter; it gets heavier.
Well, I think perspective changes through your life.
Absolutely.
It does change.
It definitely changes.
You know, what you were certain about at 25, you become a little more uncertain of as you age. And I mean, I think there's seasons of how you think about things. Like, I'll have people come to me, like, I'll do a teaching or whatever it might be, and they'll come to me and they'll say, oh, well, you know what, I heard, I just listened to a speech, Steve Jobs said this. And I said, how old was he when he gave the speech? He was 29. I'm like, go listen to the one when he was 50.
Right.
Exactly.
Of course.
Yep.
And look at the difference.
Frame
Now,
a reference, man.
Steve Jobs at 29 was a baller. I'll
Right.
give
Yeah,
you that.
yep.
But his perspective was a lot different, you know, when he was older. As a matter of fact, listen to his last words. When you are aging,
Yes.
or you're even in that kind of a situation, your perspective on what really matters is going to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's called time.
It's called time. And so, you know, I think it's normal. I think it's very normal for your perspective to change. Like the decision I made to leave a very stable, successful job, I don't know if I do that at 30.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
You know, I have a little more confidence. I have a little more, you know, wherewithal of what I think I'm capable of doing. I think it would have been reckless, honestly, to do it at 30.
Right.
Same here.
But I think it's because my perspective changed and what was inside me was different.
Yeah, I was I think it was last week I spoke at this John Maxwell event in West Virginia, and he was on video talking about his new book that's coming out. And one thing he said that was super profound, he was talking about the difference between being young and old. He said, when I was younger, I was certain about so many things. And he says, now I've gotten older, he's like, I'm certain about so few things, but the things I'm certain about, I know 100% they're certain. He's like, there's so much more uncertainty as you get older, but the more things but as you get older, the things you are certain about, you know for a certain fact they are.
Yeah,
they are
they're rock
actually
solid.
Yeah, because that's what I always say. Like, I'm 46. I'm like, I just know there's a lot of things I don't know. There's a lot of things I'm uncertain about, more so than I was when I was 36. I feel like the older I get, the more I'm learning I don't know. But the things I am certain about, like I'm definitely a lot more confident in the certainty of those things now. And I think it's your perspective. It's like your wisdom over time.
Oh, time. Yeah.
It's
For
really that.
If you're paying attention.
I
have to pay
think
attention.
as you age, who you are starts to outweigh grossly what you do.
Absolutely.
Oh, my
yeah.
gosh, yes. Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
And it's funny, too, that you need exemplary character more, I think, when you're young, but you have less of it. And when you get older, your character becomes more defined, but it might not be quite as weighty in your relationships because you've already established yourself. You know, it's like it's interesting. Not that anybody should have weak character. I'm just saying the importance of the idea of character as you maneuver throughout the day becomes less vital as you age, I believe, but you have more of it. When you're younger, you need to establish that character. It's important, but you often struggle with it. You know what I mean? It's like vice versa.
It's like the time-money dynamic.
Somewhat, yeah.
All over again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's debatable.
I disagree with that slightly.
Go ahead.
'Cause I think when you're younger, I think people know young people don't even know their character yet. Like I look at people, I'm like, they don't even know they're asking for a hole in the ground. Like they don't know, because you don't know. Like I remember how I was when I was 27 years old. I didn't know shit. I didn't know, I knew certain things I believed in, but my beliefs have changed over time. I think now, as you age, your character becomes way more important, because it's absolutely. I think, yeah, like my character and my integrity is all that matters. It's all I have. Take everything else away. You can rip everything from me. I still have my integrity and my character. I can rebuild everything because of that.
But socially, it seems like there's more weight put on a young person's character, or to define what that is. And I don't know if those demands are as great to define that character when they're older.
I think, I don't know. I don't think there's that much weight on it when they're young. I think people give younger people a little bit of grace.
You think?
I mean, at least how I see the world. I think and it's not a weight having to have character. I think people put a heavier weight on your character as you get older,
because you should know better.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. That's exactly right. That's it. You should know better. Like if a young person does something, they don't know any better. They haven't even figured out what's right and wrong yet.
Right.
If you're my age and I do something stupid, like, come on, you should know better. Like that shows me what your character is. And I think people. I think people look at I think people judge, especially business people. I think we're held to a different standard. I feel like, because people that are competitive or are below us, they want to see us fail. Maybe so they'll find one thing in your character they can pick apart.
Let me rephrase that. That probably wasn't phrased right. Would you not say that you tend to be more resolute in your belief structure, which is a part of your character when you're older?
For sure.
Because time will help you craft that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Which is why I think even, as we're integrating into certain cultures, that there are certain people that just, I always say Jesus had the 3, he had the 12, and then he had the multitudes. It's like he had people close to him that were aligned with his character and values. And then there was the next level and the next level, and then there was the I might know a lot of people. But those people that are in my day-to-day life that are interacting with me every day are going to reflect my values and character. So it does end up, maybe again, that's part of where you feel a little bit more isolated, because you feel like you're in a little group, not because you're any better than anybody else, but it's just because you've established certain boundaries and you don't want to be pulled into gossip. You don't want to be pulled.
That's very much true.
When I think about competition, I think of it as, it's me looking at other people trying to figure out how to get better. It's not me tearing them down. It's not me trying to figure out a way to ride over them.
Well, that can be argued as being healthy competition.
Yeah.
Yes.
We I think we still, all of us.
Can Jeff jump? That's the question.
Can he?
I think
we do a cold plunge pig tournament.
Hey.
Oh, God. That competition that we have with ourselves, with our own goals, our own minds, our own wants, is heavy. And then when you add the complexity of competition with others on top of all that. But
yeah,
I've always found that being super competitive with what my goals were was always the heaviest thing to deal with, especially as I got a little older.
Yeah. Well, to that point, I think one of the things that takes a lot of people out is comparison.
Yeah.
Yep.
And look, we've been vulnerable the whole time. When Rocco makes the statement that I went in the cold plunge for 5 minutes.
He's going to do 6.5 tomorrow.
You know what I said? No, here's what I didn't say. I didn't think for 1 second, you know what? Great. I hope the next time Rocco gets in the cold plunge, he's only able to do 2 minutes. It never crossed my mind. Right. But what it did was it challenged me to say, you know what? It's possible.
Yeah, it is.
So I need to get around somebody that has been where I want to go. I'm not competing with Rocco. I'm competing with what's possible. We learned this in the 4-minute mile.
Right.
Yeah.
When Bannister ran the 4-minute mile, nobody had ever done it before. The second that he did it, dozens of people started doing it because they had belief. And so I'm not competing with Rocco, nor do I want Rocco to have an inferior time than his, personal best. Because I'm not trying to
8 minutes tonight.
With hey, next thing you know, me and Rocco will be sleeping in the cold plunge.
Right? I'm gonna see me in the hospital. He got frostbite on his entire body.
But he won.
He was
Makes
just
it
trying
all
to show Jeff what was possible. Just showing Jeff what's possible.
Exactly.
Frostbite.
I died in there. Forget about frostbite. Don't pull me out of there. Actually, you know what's funny about that? I told you now, because they tell you, like, make sure you have somebody, with you the first time you do it. I told her, I said, unless I'm unconscious and submerged, I'm not coming out. Like, leave me in there. Like, I'm not coming out. Like, I'm doing this. Back to, like, winning of the mind and competing. But when it crosses into comparison, you're spent.
Right.
You're done.
Right.
It's a thief of
you're
joy,
inferior.
right?
Oh,
it's the thief of joy.
Yeah,
comparison.
this is this. I want you to do well, just not better than me. And that's such garbage. And we see it all over social media. Like, I don't want to win so bad that it's at the cost of somebody else not being their best.
Why? Let me ask you this question: what is the idea? Or not what is the idea? Let me rephrase that. There is nothing wrong in this world, from my perspective, of the win-win or the win-win-win-win-win-win-win. I get the idea that there's winners and losers in life, but in certain business transactions and certain negotiations, it's possible for both parties to get a good portion of what they want.
Yep.
In a compromised situation.
I think those types of people come from a lack mindset.
Exactly.
They
What is it? Kind of
Exactly.
lack. There's a pie and there's only so much to go around. If you have a growth mindset, then you can win. Everybody can win. You just got to you got to navigate the path to get there. But I think people, it's not everything's a zero-sum game.
Right.
There are certain things in life that are, and that
Of
there's
course.
there's obviousness to that. But
Most sports are that way, right?
yeah, but I think to your point, like in transactions or in negotiations, you can find a win-win if both parties have to be of the same mindset.
Be willing to do it.
Right. You can't have one growth mindset and one lack. Because I've been in situations as a lawyer when I negotiate with people. If I know the other side, if I know they're coming from a lack mindset and I can't change it, then it's my obligation to my client to dominate them. Yeah. Then it's going to be a zero.
Well, it's your job requirement at that point.
Right, but there are times where we can get a win-win. If I know, like, because there are some transactions I'm dealing with now, like negotiations, like we're just trying to find a solution. Both of our clients are willing to meet in the middle, but we just can't find where we are yet. There's other ones where the guy on the other side is just being a total prick, and I know there's no chance. It's like, okay, well now I'm going to bury you. Like then it turns on my competitiveness, and it's like there's no win-win here. It's win-lose, and you're going to lose. But that's because you have to be in a transaction or in a relationship with a person that's of the same mindset, or it won't work, in my opinion.
No, certainly.
Man, that made me think of this thought of, it's not that I'm trying to beat you. It's that I am trying to set pace.
Yep.
Because I do, like, even when I get up and do keynotes, like, I'll lock on to certain people in the room. And you can tell, like, there might be even if it's the smallest percentage that's resonating with my story. Because I'm a firm believer that if you don't have the belief, you can borrow somebody else's belief in you. And I've been there. Like, I've been in the valley where I didn't have it within myself to believe in myself, and I didn't have another day to give. But there was somebody that believed in me enough that I could borrow that belief they had in me. And this is where it doesn't transcend into greed because I want it all. There might be, a young kid, a young boy that was in the same environment that I was in, and he's hearing this. And now I'm going to be his 4-minute mile. I'm going to let him know that it's possible. You can break out. I don't care where you're at. It's possible to keep moving forward and transcend what you think is possible in your own belief system. But you can't do that through comparison. You'll lose every time. You can't do this with, wanting to beat the competition so bad that they fail so that you can win. You do this by saying this is the high tide lifts all ships. Like, if I can be the catapult to lift the tide, I can bring everybody with me. And if you can find that level of motivation, I feel like you're going to be pretty tough to beat.
But to your point about setting the pace, like, I think that's a leader's job. Like,
it
truly,
is.
It's like, because I say that all the time. Like, I can't expect anybody to work harder than me.
That's right.
So I have to set the pace.
That's
Like Matt and I had a joke going into this year. You know, his goal was to try and make sure I didn't bill as much as I did last year, and my goal was to make sure I bill more, to just pull everybody, because I want to make everybody rise. So it's like we're not competing with each other, but we have the same goal. But he was trying to get me to push more work off and do more of the other stuff. But to me, I look at it as a leader. It's my job to set the pace, to show them what's possible, because I can't ever expect anybody to work harder than me, to do more than I do. So I have to always keep that in my head. Like when I have those long days and those long nights, it's in my mind, I come back to it's my job to set the pace.
Well, that's, and we mentioned earlier, the three of you have a different entrepreneur journey than I did, because I really didn't employ people. I had a couple of contract people to help me in a while, but I didn't really employ people. So I didn't have that extra burden of their livelihoods and their families' well-being and all that on my back. I thank God.
And their personalities.
I don't think I was mature enough to. I would have been mature enough to handle that. No,
not my team. I'm just saying I've heard about it. My team is amazing.
There's other teams, right? Other teams with personalities.
All right. Before we wrap this up, I do want to ask one final question from you. Can you talk a little bit about an experience or a person that you met, or a client that you met, or something that's been an awakening for you during the entrepreneurial journey that has changed you, something you've realized about the human experience in or out of your actual business function, but something in entrepreneurship that has changed the way you've looked at life or looked at other people, or even changed your direction? Something of magnitude.
I mean, I don't have anything from my entrepreneur journey. I have something, the biggest impact when I was in law school. My one professor, I was on the the moot court team. So we were like the trial competition team. We traveled around the country and competed in trial competitions. And my one professor, who was the coach, like at the end of I think it was my third year, our last competition in the spring, like he gave each of us, because we were all graduating, he gave each of us a stone that had a word on it. And and he had like what each word meant to each of us. And he gave it to me, and he said, my word said inspire. I was like a 27-year-old kid. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And he said, and it always stuck with me. And he's like, you have a way. He said, your presence has a way of inspiring people when you don't even realize it. He's like, just being around others lifts them up, and you inspire them for some reason. And like that always stuck with me.
He was right.
And it's kind of how I always try and like live my life. And that's just the way we run the firm. I think that's impacted me. Like I want to inspire the people that work for me, the people that work with me, my clients. Like it just all, and I still have that rock to this day. And it's something that's always, that was the most impactful statement, because I was, I had Gabe, he was 2 years old. I was trying to figure out how to be a man. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And for this individual who was a well-respected professor, he was a U.S. attorney, to see that in me at that age, and it's sat with me for 20 years. And it's been kind of like my guiding post through life. Like that was the most impactful moment of my life, definitely.
Jeff?
Man. I feel like the what I get up and do every day lends itself to a lot of high emotion. Whether it's being in front of a crowd and being, having the privilege to speak in front of people, or one-on-one coaching, or even training rooms. One that stands out to me, and there's several. I was doing a keynote. There was probably, 400 people in the room. And it was my state of readiness keynote, which is a lot of my story. And there was a portion that I get to in this keynote that you could start audibly hearing emotion in the room. And I'm telling my story, and I get to the place where I tell the story of my mom dying in my arms. And the emotion got so audible in this auditorium. And I'm in a zone, so I'm just finishing what I need to do to make the impact that I'm trying to make. And over the next 10 days from that specific event, and this happens from time to time, a handful of person here or there, but one lady specifically asked if I would have a virtual call with her she wants to tell me about the impact my speech made. And she goes on to tell me that drug abuse and how it's deteriorating her family, and that it was not too far prior to her hearing me speak that somebody that she was really close to also overdosed, and so she had considered relapsing. And there was a portion of that state of readiness that I talk about engaging your motivation and going beyond what you think is possible. And she said, for the week prior to hearing you speak, all I could think about was going back to drugs. And she said, when you talked about engaging your motivation and that there were people counting on us to win, I couldn't help but think about my kids.
Wow.
And leaving them behind. Now, there have been a lot of stories like that on my journey, but that one stands out because this lady, when I spoke to her, was sobbing. And it, not that like I'm this great guy or anything like that, but it was a refresher that what I'm doing has purpose, and that this transcends an income statement, and that there's nothing that's going to take me off of this path. And I'm sure you have stories like that, helping businesses that are being taken advantage of. Lynn, you have plenty of stories of being in funeral homes, helping people in their hardest times. But I will tell you, it's those moments for me, and just hearing, I can see this lady's face, and I could get emotional if I allowed myself to think like, man, I can be used in a way that can really help people get to a different place. And that's heavy. You asked for heavy. Like for me, that is heavy. And it's the things that fuel me to launch the book, to launch the training, to fight to get on more stages. And it's not because of the accolades, but what if I don't get in another room?
Right.
And there's a lady that needs to hear the message. And I don't have the greatest message, but I had a message for her that day. And I just want to make more impact like that.
Yeah, very similar, I would say, in my story, where I went through some stuff. It was pretty horrendous in 2013, and everything in me wanted to give up. I wanted to quit. And I just thought, that's it, I'll just go on assistance and I can just coast. And I'll never forget this little Italian man who was very soft-spoken. I know, he was Italian and soft-spoken. Shocking, isn't
That might
it?
be a little rare.
But he was kind and very respectful of me and had never really said anything challenging to me. And I remember me saying something about, that was it. It was just too hard. I wasn't going to be able to make it. I had 2 kids in college. It was like I was going through a divorce. It was the whole thing. I just couldn't do it. And he looked at me with his steely blue eyes and he said, "You're a steward. And it's yours. And you better take it. And you better grow it." And that was everything.
Wow.
That wasn't just money, business. It was like, go ahead, you give up. You got 4 kids. What are you doing for them? And it was like, that was a very pivotal moment.
Yeah. Wow.
He has no idea that I keep telling him that he made that impact.
Thank God for
A
those
quiet
people.
Italian.
Yeah.
What's that, Rocco? Oh, what's that?
Well, you said this earlier, Lynn, like the people that have had the biggest impact are the ones that are usually the toughest. Like you think about the 3 people that have maybe been the most influential of your life. Were they tough on you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
You
yeah,
are, Jeff.
absolutely, Yeah.
You are a huge
Like there's
influence in
something
my
to
life.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not because you're trying to be a tough guy. It's because you really care. And
You care about
That's
me.
it.
And you've earned the right
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
to
You
be
care
that
about
person.
my future. You care more about my future than how I feel about you today.
I ain't got nothing heavy like that, man. Mine's gonna sound pretty weak after listening to this. I was very susceptible to putting people on platforms pretty much since I was a kid. I mean, celebrities, athletes, anyone I thought was like amazing. Way up here, man, And that continued all through my 20s and 30s into the guitar years. And I was in Los Angeles, and I was going to sit down finally with my childhood hero, Paul Stanley of Kiss. We're going to meet, and we're going to design guitars together, right? And we sit in this room, and I can't get words out. There's like 4 people in this little room. And he looks at me and he says, "Eric, just take a breath, man." I said, "We all put our pants on the same way, man." and it was so disarming. It was amazing. And I had a great meeting with the guy. And then he says, "Hey, would you mind walking me out of this room, out of this place, or get me through the back hallway?" Eric says he had his kid with him, so he walked him out, and they bring his car around, and he's tipping this guy, and his credit cards flopped out of his wallet, and there was like a Target card, and there was like a Walmart card, and I'm thinking about, there's this guy, right, this rock star with hundreds of millions of dollars. He's got a Target card.
He's a dude.
So he's just a dude looking for a 20 somewhere in there to tip this guy. Okay, so you fast forward about a year, my second wife and I split. And through this process, I lost my house and was living, believe it or not, in this building, hiding out, trying to build an apartment here to see my kids. It was a tough time. And I think that a couple of my friends out on the West Coast who were involved in the guitar thing with me had gotten to him and told him that, hey, because Kiss was coming to Pittsburgh, and I think I'd asked for tickets or something, and we were building guitars together. Mm-hmm. And he sent me this, and I have the emails. He sent me these 2 long emails about like divorce, and like telling me all about his experiences and the books that he read, and the counselor, this group of counselors that helped him, and he even offered to send me this counseling group that they have a location in Pittsburgh. I'll be glad to send that to you. And like this really long, heartfelt email from a guy who was on my wall wearing makeup and platform boots when I was like 10. It was such a human moment that it was special because it was unique to me. I get it. But it was another realization that, you know what, all the money and the fame and all that, at least for this particular celebrity, didn't change the humanity that he had. Because you can say I was relatively still a stranger, see me a couple times a year, he had no reason to reach out like that for any reason. There was no gain for him to do that. Mm-hmm. But it was a moment that I was like, no matter what the circumstance or where we find ourselves in life, there is kindness and goodness everywhere from the people that you probably would think the least would give a shit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I've never forgotten that. And I've in subsequent years I've brought that up multiple times, that he was kind enough to do that. And I think, but I think he is the kind of person that probably has done that for a lot of other people in my shoes too. I think he wears that kind of humanity on his persona. So it was a moment that I realized that no matter what happens, you can't stereotype or pigeonhole people in just based upon a public perception or a public persona. True. I've never forgotten that. Yep. Yeah, so for what it's worth.
It's great.
Thank you, friends. This was really good.
Thank you. Thank you all.
A little deep, but we always do that, right? Yeah. What else is new? Yeah, we're going to do this again.
Thank you.
I definitely enjoyed all 3 of you taking time out of your night. I mean, I realize this is a big ask, but
I enjoyed it.
It means a lot to me. These conversations are they mean the world to me. So it was a pleasure, man.
Always. Thank you.
All right, friends. Thank you for all the support. 370 shows in the can.
Wow. That's crazy.
And we're on our way to 500.
Wow.
We're out. It's awesome.